seeing the Tucson sector, obviously there's not hundreds of people crossing over, but you see the structural issues here. What do you think, being here 7 months later from your first trip? What's changed or what's gotten better?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything's changed. I think it's getting worse and worse. This county has a series of different problems than Yuma did. But it's all the same. It's the infrastructure has been torn up or not completed, and that is deliberate and shockingly petty. The personnel are demoralized and they've been told to stand down, and that also is shocking. And most importantly, we have policies that could prevent this literally overnight. If the Border Patrol were allowed to do its job, if they had not been instructed to stand down, 90% of this problem could end overnight. And our country, this is an existential threat to our country. And it's been politicized, and it's being politicized now on both sides on Capitol Hill. I blame the Democrats much more. But, you know, the Republicans could put in a clean bill, and that's what they ought to do, and not, you know, think about politics, but how do we solve this problem? How do we solve it today?
You mentioned a clean bill, kind of alluding to the Senate bill being one that's not necessarily clear cut. I know you probably haven't gone through the entire border bill that the Senate's proposing. What are your initial thoughts, though, just kind of in conversation? Obviously, you know enough about it. What are your initial thoughts? You're saying Republicans should put forward a clean bill instead.
I mean, I think that they ought to listen to the simple suggestions that are coming from the Border Patrol and from local law enforcement. And, you know, we talked to the sheriffs today, and the Border Patrol looks like they're going to oppose the bill because it doesn't change anything. And it's very clear what needs to be done. And it's very, very strange that it's demoralizing and disheartening that the political system is so broken that you can't get, you know, that we can't just get a clean bill that says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to complete the infrastructure. We're going to start enforcing the laws that forbid people from coming across. And we're going to send everybody back. If you want to get asylum in this country, you come through a legal port. You don't come across illegally.
Now, how confident would you be in the presidency to be able to get legislation across? Right now, Congress is in gridlock.
I don't need legislation. If President Biden wanted to stop this, he could stop it overnight. He could complete this fence. I'm not going to need legislation. I'm going to do this by executive order, and I'm going to do it on day one.
Now, when it comes to Chinese nationals, we've seen a massive surge. They're one of our biggest growing populations across the southern border right now, 100% increase over what we've seen in the past. Now, I've asked Customs and Border Protection, despite what Christopher Wray, our FBI director, has said, that they're our greatest national security risk. They are not designated as a special interest country because of politics. Would that change under your administration? Would you do something differently with the Chinese migrants coming across?
Well, I would stop all migrants from coming across. But, you know, the night that I was in Yuma, we saw probably the biggest single group that was coming across after the Africans were Chinese nationals. I think, you know, this is something that, you know, there are people coming from many, many countries of interest. There are people coming from Azerbaijan, from Tajikistan, and Afghanistan, and, you know, other places that none of this should be happening. So, you know, we shouldn't even be having to decide which ethnic group or which national group gets across. Everybody should be stopped from getting across unless they want to come in legally.
Final question here. We have reports from the Darien Gap, from CBP, from DHS, saying that they interviewed 300 people, not one claimed fear of persecution, all the way down in the Darien Gap. What would you do differently? You've talked about these people don't qualify for asylum. So what would be different with the asylum process?
I would stop. I would make an announcement on day one that it's over. And I would then begin enforcing the law so nobody gets across. And I would also start talking to the presidents of the Central American countries, of Ecuador, Colombia, and enlist their help in solving this problem internationally.
Would you be willing to stop buying Venezuelan oil?
Oh, yeah.
Because of all the crisis that's happened? I mean, we have more Venezuelans than we do.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to solve the problem. The problem we can solve right here at the border. We don't even have to go down to the Darien Gap. I am going to look into the United Nations role in encouraging Chinese to come over here and encouraging the caravans to come up and supporting the caravans. I don't think that that's a good use of U.S. or other multinational money.